Good evening, everyone. Om Shanti. Very welcome to this wonderful series of Soul Smart. Today is our fifth session, and the subject is discernment, a swan-like intellect. When I saw the second line of the topic, I remembered 2 weeks ago in Avyakta Murli, Baba remembered holy swans. He called us happy and holy swans. So, thought of reading that passage. This Murli original date is 20th February 2005. All of you are holy and happy swans. What is the work of a swan? A swan has a lot of power of discernment. So you too are holy and happy swans who finish all waste, and by becoming powerful, you make others powerful. Are all of you ever happy? Ever happy? Now never allow sorrow to come. You have divorced sorrow. Only then will you be able to cure the sorrow of others. So you have to remain happy and give happiness to others. Would you keep bad things with you? Sorrow is something bad, is it not? So remove that sorrow and remain happy. Continue to give happiness while walking and moving around. Such a beautiful way Baba is explaining what swan-like intellect means. One way of seeing that. So some thoughts from here. Worldly intellect, we see everybody, everywhere being used. It's used to invent things, fix problems in the world, come up with new ideas. But we know that it works only at the limited level. At a gross level, it can give happiness, but it eventually brings pain too. But here, as godly students, our aim is to become pure. Our aim is to become free from falsehood, come out of the ignorance. And we know that it is the root cause of the suffering. So the swan-like intellect, which is also called godly intellect, Divya Buddhi, Paras Buddhi, it has power to discern. And discern what? So the one who has this godly intellect knows the truth and power to hold on to the truth. That will result into true happiness. Baba in the Murli said, while walking and moving around give happiness to everyone. And last two sessions we saw such a beautiful technique of having a soul vision, drishti. We can have it for everyone, and that has tremendous power to uplift the brother's soul. And for that we know that first I, the soul, has to be conscious. If I am thinking I am body and I'm so and so and I'm this and that, then whoever I see them as bodies, I see them as roles, and then it comes to a gross level. But here the soul who is conscious sees the other soul, and Baba also he said, create this, make this promise. Don't see body, not even face. Baba said, don't even look into the eyes, look into the forehead and see that shining star, that loving brother God's child, peaceful and happy soul, lucky soul, angel. So, with this kind of attitude, the soul itself becomes powerful, and whoever that vision goes through, that attitude can uplift the other souls, and it can spread happiness. So we welcome Sister Gayatri to take us deep into this power of discernment, which all of us need, and most important power in this spiritual journey. So welcome, Sister Gayatri.
So we'll go into the reflection piece first, and then I'll share. So is your intellect touched by the depth of discernment? You know, when I was reflecting on discernment, I felt I knew what discernment was all about. But I realized that I was looking at discernment very much from an extroverted perspective, which we tend to do. And yet, these are things that are very personal and they are very specific to the soul's unique being. And so discernment, even though it is something that every single person does to some extent or the other, it is something that is very specific to the soul and to the individual. And so today I will share with you a method that I discovered in researching discernment from Baba's Murlis. Because I feel if we don't understand the method, even though it's unique to each and every one of us, if we don't understand the method, we will not be able to understand how to do it. And because method is very much connected to practice. And if I don't understand the method, I cannot practice something. I may be doing it because discernment is something that's natural to the soul. But I'm not doing it accurately. When Baba uses this term accurate, this word accurate, I'm not doing it based on the deeper understanding of what it means to me, the individual, when it comes to discernment. So what I'd like to do this evening is, as I share the method, I would like you to capture it in the way you're hearing it. And then you will take away the method. We will go into discussions on the method, clarifications on the method. And then you'll be committed to practicing it for the next week. So I'll do a discernment 2 on the 23rd. And you will come back on the 23rd to tell me how you apply this method and how it worked for you. And so discernment, Baba, when it comes to discernment, Baba always uses the metaphor of a swan. But just as how you have the Swan-Like, you know, that beautiful piece of music, and ballet is done to that beautiful piece of music. You have a swan intellect. You have a swan-like intellect. And I contemplated on why is it that this metaphor of a swan is used for discernment. And what I came up with is like the swan-like intellect is an intellect that works with a spiritual method, with the spiritual method to attain success. But the success that the intellect, the swan-like intellect works with, this method that it works with to get to the success is connected to time. So it's like the intellect discerns at the right time. And the accuracy of the intellect connected to the time brings about the success. So it is not that the intellect would discern now and decide 5 months later. If the intellect is a swan-like intellect, and if that intellect is using the right method, it calls on the intellect to discern in the moment and decide in that very moment. And that brings success. So it's not like a relay thing. I discern now and I decide later. No, it's got to be together. So discernment is also a specialty. And every task I discern before I do requires a specific specialty for me. So it is as if this actual art of discernment is my specialty. But the specialty works in relation to the different things connected to the task that I have to discern. So to accomplish a task, if I'm given a task, I'm given a project, I'm given something to do, I'm given an action, I'm working on a relationship, to accomplish it, I have to see discernment as a specialty that I have. Discernment is a specialty of the soul. So every soul has it. And the more it gets developed, it's the more the specialty becomes something that is effective in my life. And so this myth that the swan discerns between stones and jewels, between milk and water, it's that the discernment is actually, I'm separating things. And the word nuances that was used in the commentary is that nuances are very subtle. It's like the subtle shades of colors. It's like the subtle tones of someone's voice. It's like the subtle, that when they express, the tones are very subtle. It's the subtle, like music has got subtle notes in it. So that is what the swan-like intellect is doing. It's separating things. And it's seeing the best. And it's connecting to the best, which will bring it strength. So it's strength-based. Discernment, spiritual discernment is strength-based. And so this thing called specialty is, when Bobby says your specialty, it's like a spiritual skill. It's a spiritual strength. It's the spiritual asset that I have inside of me. And so a skill could be a way of doing something. The strength could be the accumulation of spiritual power that comes from using that skill according to the spiritual method. And an asset is when I become something good, when I become good at something, I become an asset to Baba, because an asset is like I invested in it, I developed it, and I did it through my effort and my practice, and people depend on it, people trust it. And so discernment as a specialty becomes a natural characteristic or a trait within the soul. And it manifests very naturally at the time it is needed. So it's not a strategic, discernment is not just strategic. If I am trying to discern something outside of me, then I could be strategic. X plus Y plus Z, I could create an equation and then discern. But when it's inside of me, it is something that flows out naturally and shows up at the time I need to use it. So this is why it's a specialty. It's a specialty that shows up in my life at the time I need to use it, because it is discerning. I will go into discernment in the introverted sense and not the extroverted sense. For instance, doctors, they have specialties, but they study for that specialty. And so that specialty of being a cardiologist, for instance, when a patient is in front of the doctor, because of the specialty and because of what the patient is saying to the doctor, the discernment flows naturally from what he knows, from what he studied, from his experience. And so he's making sense and meaning based on that discernment. For instance, another specialty, they say this one has a specialty of cooking. This one makes the best halwa for Brahma Bhojan. So if I become specialized in Brahma Bhojan, making halwa, it means in the practice, the effort and practice that I applied to making that dish, inside of me again, there's a discernment of what I need to do, how much flour I need to have, or whatever I'm making it with. How much. So I'm discerning the ingredients, but I'm also discerning in terms of the art, the patience with which to make it, you know, the attention with which it would be required at that very moment I need to take it off the fire. And so this is a specialty as well, but it's based on the discernment. But at the level that Baba wants us to discern is at the level of more subtle levels, then the level of discerning feelings behind words and the effort to see desires embedded in intentions. Now, I won't be able to discern that in another if I don't discern it in myself. So when Baba talks about a swan-like intellect with a specialty of discernment, he is talking about it at the level of knowing yourself, being able to discern at the level of self, and then it would naturally flow in the discernment of others. So it's an introverted method that he is bringing to our attention. Now, he says, he calls us holy swans, and you heard Kiran reading out a bit of what Baba says about holy swans. Well, when he uses this word holy swans, he's saying that the holy swan, you see, swans are very subtle. You look at them, you see elegance, poise, beauty, naturalness. But there's a subtle thing that one observes about them. So he's saying the intellect, being called a holy swan, is an intellect that's got these two powers. They work together. And that is the power to discern and the power to decide. And so these two powers of discerning and deciding, Baba says, we need to develop the specialty of having them work together according to the time that is required. So it's discerning, deciding, and the time is very important. Because what they do, there are two things, two benefits in discerning and deciding according to the time. And he says one is that they remove obstacles. And secondly, they bring solutions. So the success of discernment is my obstacles are seen. I'm able to discern the obstacles that are standing in the way of my progress. And therefore, I'm able to do that for someone else. And actually not when I'm able to discern situations that perhaps I'm facing, the discernment is able to bring me to a point of a solution. And my decision is based on that solution. And I have to apply it in the time I need to apply it, which is the now. And not say, okay, next year I'll apply it. I'll decide and discern this year, and next year I'll do it, or next week I'll do it. No, the power is in applying it in the now. So he says that the practice is for both of these powers to work together, because he says that if I don't know the method, then I could be deceived by these two same powers. And the deception is I would separate the two powers. And maybe I will discern something today, and I know clearly this is what I have to do, but my decision is a delayed decision. And when my decision is delayed, then I'm deceived in the gap of time. So he's saying that it's very, very important to understand how these two work together and how success comes from doing it in a timely way. So he says the reason the discernment doesn't work and the decision isn't timely is because we don't know the method. And so he says that we need to understand the spiritual method and we need to apply the spiritual method. And in so doing, we will be able to use these two powers very accurately. He said sometimes the deception could happen in that I've discerned, okay, now here is this person in front of me, and the person is behaving in a certain way, and I'm discerning what is going on in the person's feelings and in the person's thoughts. But I'm not able to decide which power I should be using to help the person. And because I am still extroverted, I'm still looking at the person and the person's behavior and the person's words and the person's whatever the person is doing. But I'm not taking it into my introversion and saying, well, which is the power that I need to use at this moment in time to help this person? And he says, because we don't take it back inside of us, what happens is that I might use the wrong power. So I might use the power to face, but the person doesn't need me to face them. What the person needs is for me to accommodate them. Or I may need to use the power to pack up, but because I didn't take it back into me and understood very clearly and decide very clearly what power I need to use, I may go into the expansion of what the person is doing when what was required in that moment was for me to pack it up. Just zip it. Just don't say anything. Just be yogyuked and send them the power of vibrations. So he says at that level, we get deceived. And the deception is we don't know which virtue to use, which power to use, which aspect of knowledge is important at that time for us to use to bring us to success. And so we're just guessing, but it isn't coming from our discernment. So our decisions are just, okay, let me just do this. So he says, make sure that we stay in this introverted space because discernment is it's the subtlest of all spiritual powers. And so Baba is saying that we need to sharpen. First of all, we need to sharpen the power of discernment. Because if as an instrument, I'm not able to have a clear reading of something or someone, then what is the reason for the lack of clarity when I am trying to discern a situation or a person, or I'm even trying to discern what is going on inside of me? Why am I not able to have a clear reading of what's going on inside of me? And so I'm not able to discern. See, he says there are four actually reasons that becomes a block to our discernment. And he says this was why Brahma Baba, when he became Avyakt, he left us with these three words. So he says, for discernment to be accurate and clear, we need to have an elevated stage. And the elevated stage is, of course, cumulative. We accumulate it based on the practice. But at the time we are discerning, we need to establish this stage inside of us. So he says the first step is to practice being incorporeal, be soul conscious. And we know how to do that. We know to center ourselves. We need to concentrate on being souls. And that's you're setting yourself in a stage of soul consciousness. It's as though you're putting yourself in neutral. The second is to be ego-less, which means don't have any vested interest even in what you want to see come up. You know, you're egoless. You're clear of any sense of I and mine and me and my. So the intellect is releasing itself from those threads, those subtle threads, and it's becoming egoless. So it is allowing itself with the clarity to see all the different perspectives, to spot the things that are obscure and cannot be seen. So it's egoless. It's relinquishing all the subtle threads. The other thing is the intellect needs to be viceless. Now, the vicelessness in the intellect is that the intellect cannot operate on any of the vices, which means it can't try to control the situation because discernment wouldn't be activated. It can't be subservient to the situation or to the person or to myself because it won't work clearly, clean with that cleanliness. It cannot have an interest of what's in it for me because that's not clean. That's not a viceless intellect. It can't have attachments that because I have, I'm close to this one, I really must put in a word for them, have a certain favoritism toward them. So it's a viceless state of being for the intellect. It's clean. But then he said the fourth was to be free from sinful thoughts. And by that, I understood it to be avoid discerning, the intellect discerning on the basis of past karmic accounts. If I have karmic accounts with someone, then don't let the intellect connect to those karmic accounts. Be free from those karmic accounts. So in order to build a stage from which to discern, Baba says, these are the four things, the four pillars that I would sit on in order to stabilize myself before I start discerning the situation. So he says that these four pillars would give me a seat, and he calls the seat of your dharna. And the dharna means it would show you to what extent you have been inculcating the things that Baba has been saying. And it's on the basis of being knowledgeable, the inculcation of the knowledge, that these four pillars you would be sitting on. Because he says that only that which is elevated, if you're sitting on an elevated seat, would the intellect be clear. And if you are clean of all those attachments, etc., then he said cleanliness is the greatness in discernment. So only that which is elevated, the seat, is clear. And the greatness of discernment is cleanliness. So the method, he was saying, are these two things. I need to be clean and I need to be clear before I start discerning. But he says that, you know, when it was instrument consciousness, when we talk about instrument consciousness, we talked about awareness. What is the awareness I have to have? But for discernment, Baba is saying, you need to be clean and clear in your attitude. So discernment means you're discerning motives and you're discerning feelings in your relationships. And if there's anything that is not clean or clear in your attitude, you will never, ever be able to discern motives and feelings in your relationships. In your relationship with yourself or in your relationship with others. Because everything that you're going to be discerning, he said, is connected to people, and it's also connected to situations that you have experienced with those people in your relationship, because no relationship is outside of a situation. So you're going to be discerning both. And so he says, this is why discernment and a holy swan is to have this specialty. So he says, okay, now you're going to use it, the method. You know the method, you know the four pillars, you know the seat you're sitting on, and then you're bringing together these two specialties of the holy swan's intellect, which is clarity and cleanliness. And now I want to discern in my relationships. Okay? So he says that when you come into contact with any person, you are discerning your own motives and your own feelings toward that person. Discerning what are my motives and what are my feelings toward this person. And then you're checking your attitude. So what are you checking in your attitude? Is my attitude accurate? Is because he said the seed of the method for discernment is your attitude. It lies, it's living there in the attitude. So you have to check the attitude now. So you're checking the attitude with your clarity and your cleanliness. So what are you checking for in your attitude? Do I have an attitude of soul conscious brotherhood? Is that what is in my attitude, or do I have hidden biases? Do I have prejudices? So the first thing I'm going to check from my sitting on my seat of the 4 pillars, do I have a soul conscious attitude of brotherhood? Second, the second thing I'm going to be checking in my attitude is, do I have benevolence? Do I have love? Do I have cooperation? And is there selflessness? Is there a sense of altruism? So the second, attitude of benevolence, attitude of love, attitude of cooperation, attitude of selflessness. The other thing I will be checking for is my attitude free?
Sister Gayatri, can you repeat those? The attitude of brotherhood.
Yeah, the second will be that soul conscious attitude of brotherhood. So it's not just brotherhood of my own clan, but it's brotherhood of the soul. So that's the incorporeal pillar, or the incorporeal pillars I'm sitting on, right? The second attitude is the attitude inside of me want to bring benevolence? Is it a loving attitude? Is it I want to cooperate? And is it a selflessness there? An altruism? Am I doing it for the sake of doing it because it's right? Or am I doing it because I want something from it? I want recognition. I want appreciation. But then the third is an attitude that is free from waste thoughts toward any soul. And why that is important, because the attitude shows up. I may see, I may be looking at a situation, and of course, Baba says, you have to see the person, you will always see the person within the context of a situation. Now I'm discerning, and I'm saying, okay, I want to bring benefit. I want there to be love. I want there to be cooperation. I want there to be altruism. I'm looking at this person as a soul. But then he says the discernment would then become weak if that attitude starts churning out reasons for not doing these things with this soul because of the past. I can't do this because, he or she will turn around and do something very different. They will never change. I can't waste my time doing this because this person isn't going to do what I want them, what is best for them. And so that attitude that is creating waste thoughts based on prejudices or biases or experiences I'm carrying within me will stop my discernment. I no longer would be able to discern, but what I will revert to is reasons, start creating reasons for not helping the person. When I'm creating these reasons for not helping the person, that is not discernment. Discernment, Baba is saying, is to help, is to bring benefit, is to cooperate. But don't look at the selfishness of it, because he says that will then come through. Whatever is going on in your attitude is reflected in your vision. And the more your attitude is churning out the reasons for not doing what you want to discern to do, then there's a block to your discernment. And that will be the color that you will be looking at the person and the situation with, all your waste of the past. And he says discernment is actually the specialty to change, to purify, and to transform. But if it becomes a block based on your waste thoughts, then you're not discerning. So whatever you're deciding is based on the person and the situation without discernment. You're just like a ping pong ball. You're just reacting then because you weren't able to discern anything. You allow the past to come back and influence your thoughts. So he's saying that you have to really be very clean and very clear, but in your attitude. Because if you're not clean and clear in your attitude, your own words, your own thoughts, and your own actions will deceive you because you haven't discerned. Anytime there isn't discernment, there is deception. And so you won't be able to do it. So he says that before discerning and before deciding, first of all, get onto your elevated seat with those 4 pillars and check the foundation of your attitude, because discernment depends on an elevated attitude. And if there's anything that is mixed in your attitude, then it doesn't matter how many methods you apply to get the success, you wouldn't get success. So he says that in essence, the seed of discernment is your attitude. This is the method. The seed is your attitude, and the tree is the method that you have to use, because you're not just dealing with a single thing in discernment. You're dealing with like a whole tree. Even one relationship has grown into a whole tree. So you're dealing with the whole tree of the relationship. And then he said, the fruit is the success. The fruit is the result. So if the seed, which is your attitude, is weak, it doesn't matter how you try to discern the whole tree of expansion, you won't be able to do it because the seed is weak. And then what kind of fruits will you have? You won't have fruits that will bring you success. So for this first part of discernment, Baba is saying it is connected to your attitude. Your attitude must be examined, because discernment is connected to one's attitude. It is not just connected to your thoughts and feelings, but it's connected to an attitude that has to become, the intellect has to work with that attitude to clean it and to make it clear. Because even if the intellect has the knowledge that Baba is talking about, so what will the swan-like intellect be looking at? How will it separate the milk from the water? The intellect will look at what Baba is saying to it. The milk is the knowledge. The water is what you have been told and what you have accumulated based on what the world has told you, what your studies have told you, what all these different things have told you. And now you're discerning. how will you discern? How will the intellect discern? The milk will be Baba's knowledge. The water will be all the layers of stuff that I have been accumulating. All the things I have been accumulating are now sitting in my attitude. So the intellect is wanting to remove the things from its attitude, to set the attitude free so that the attitude could work with Baba's knowledge. So the discernment is always from a basis of truth. I'm discerning from truth. I'm not discerning from body conscious layers of things that I have accumulated. So this is why Baba is saying that intellect must sit, that swan-like intellect must sit on these 4 pillars before, because it's saying, well, am I viceless? The intellect is asking the question, am I viceless in discerning this? Or am I still influenced by my past karmic accounts with them? Am I egoless, or am I still seeing I, my, and all the things that connect me to them? Am I incorporeal? Am I looking at them as souls? Right? Am I still carrying things of the past that I was hurt by or I became dependent on? So that's how it's discerning. It's going back to the truth for its strength, for the power that it will take to develop this specialty of discernment. And it's looking at what is coming back to it to cloud its discernment, the darkness of the past, the clouds of the past, the shadows of the past that is standing in the way of its discernment. So what Baba is saying ultimately, and I'll end here, is that it's not something that you do strategically with your intellect. You know, you don't sit and say, now I'm going to discern this and I'm going to make sure blah, 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 blah. But he says it is a course of your inculcation. It's over a period of time of inculcating the knowledge that Baba is giving us that is building the specialty of discernment. It's how much I pay attention to his remembrance that would make my intellect clean and clear. It's how much I am paying attention to the truth of what he's telling me every day that would make my intellect clean and clear. And so it's an ongoing process that I need to be aware of. But the method is that when it comes to discerning, whatever is in my attitude will become the block to that discernment. Because discernment is on the basis of gyan, knowledge. And discernment is on the basis of how much power I've taken from Baba in the terms of the clarity of that connection. And discernment is also based on a clean attitude. So I'll stop there and you can ask me questions now, but I would like you to take this method and to apply it in your life for the next week and see how it works. How does it work in your discernment? How do you discern? Are you aware of your discernment? Are you aware when you're discerning things? And are you aware of what are the pillars of your discernment? So open up to you.
Shanti, Sister Gayatri, this was like a wonderful, wonderful thing for me. It really help me to shine the spotlight on how I enter action or relationship or endeavor with especially Lockett family members, with all that past stuff in my head. Like, you know, this person never being on time, never being ready, that kind of stuff. And so I really, this session has allowed me to really see where I have prejudices before entering these endeavors based on past stuff. And the other thing, and it is, you know, it's a lot. This was wonderful for me. The other thing is that the idea of discernment and decision-making with the awareness of time. Because if I discern something and make a decision, if I don't take the action of that decision, the situation could change. So it's so connected to time. And you made that so clear. This was wonderful. I'm going to watch this 5 times.
Yeah, you've got it. That's exactly what discernment is.
Om Shanti.
Yeah. So discernment is a practice. It's the effort I make and the practice that I have. And what I inculcate daily would assist my discernment.
Om Shanti, Sister Gayatri. This session
Who? Oh. Yes, I was just looking to see who was talking. Yeah.
This session is chock full of information that it's going to take time to really absorb all of it. However, as I was listening to you, 2 questions came to me. One, how the soul would free themselves from a past karmic account in this situation now that you have to discern. There are times that repetitive things happen. For example, every time you and a particular family member interact is confrontational. How do you discern? And you need to make a decision, but all these past thoughts keep flooding you. How do you get yourself out of that?
So this was what Baba was saying, is that don't even think you are discerning if you are not sitting, if you don't have a stage to sit on. Mm-hmm. So the stage he's on, which is called an elevated stage, the stage he's asking us to sit on to allow for clarity and cleanliness, which are the 2 main things for the Swan-Like intellect to discern, is on these 4 pillars. So if I have a situation with someone that is repetitive, my attitude towards that person is already instated in me. Right? So this is my attitude. Oh, I know that they will react like this.
It's already biased.
I'm already biased.
Yeah.
I already have inside of me things that are preconditioning my responses to this person. So spiritual efforts he's talking about. And so if I want to be different, I have to make the spiritual effort to build a stage inside of me that will allow me to be different. So every day in the Murli, he's asking us to be soul conscious. That's your pillar. The second pillar, every day in the Murli, he's asking us to be egoless. He gave us this week the armor of humility, of exactly how to respond. but you won't be able to respond if you don't discern first. Okay, so how are you going to be light in conflict? How are you going to offer a glass of love? And all of that he's asking about. So he's asking us for the intellect to become egoless. The third pillar he's saying is viceless. And the fourth pillar is get rid of the past karmic account. Every single day, these four things he helps to build in us when we listen to the Murli. So over a period of time, we're building the specialty now to discern. So he said later on, part 2, I'll talk about it, is that if you sit on these four pillars, you will be able, and your attitude isn't full of the biases of, oh yeah, I know, this is how she will behave if I say this. That's an attitude. What's new? That's an attitude. And so what he's saying is that you first have to go into your introverted and change your attitude to one of brotherhood, to one of benevolence, love, cooperation, to one of no waste thoughts. And so if I'm paying attention to that, he says, before the person enters the room, you would have removed the obstacles inside of you that would respond with these limitations and these attitudinal things. And you will know exactly what that person needs from you. And so in the moment, this is the thing about time, when the person is in front of you, their repetition may be repeating, but your responses based on your discernment of sitting on that seat would be different. And that's the way you know that you have transformed. That's the way you know your decision, your discernment is not one based on past karmic account. Your discernment is not based on a prejudice-filled attitude. Your discernment is based on the truth of what Baba is asking of you to do. And so the thing is, he says, the seed is weak. So if that seed is weak, the whole tree of your relationship with that person is going to get weaker. And the fruit will be frustration. And it will be repeated in that way. So you consciously, discernment is like this. The person is in front of me and the person is behaving in a way. I'm saying, am I looking at you as a soul? I'm discerning now. Am I looking at you as a soul? Am I seeing you as a child of Baba? Secondly, why am I giving you this time? Is it that I want to cooperate so that the relationship could change? I'm discerning. All of that is called discerning. I'm discerning what my thought pattern is in that moment. Based on what? Where are the thought patterns coming from? Is it what Baba is telling me, or is it what this person has done? So that is called discernment. In the moment, I'm kind of following it through. And when my attitude kicks in, I start discerning the attitude and say, no, this is not what I want in this moment. But it's not a conversation. It's a discernment of observing your patterns at the time they're occurring and asking yourself, what is motivating those patterns? Is it Baba's Murli? Is it the dharna he's asking me to have? Or is it something that this person is all about? Am I discerning it based on the person, or am I discerning it based on what Baba is telling me to do? And it's just a practice. This is the thing about discernment. You're aware of it, you enhance it. It's not that we don't have it, we do, but we're enhancing it based on the clarity of the intellect and the cleanliness of the intellect to bring us to success. to change. Success means I'm changing my responses. I'm transforming myself in relation to that person or that situation. Kathy, if you're talking, you're muted.
Yeah, I got it. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to add something before I go. I love this topic, by the way, discernment, because I don't think it's an easy practice. I feel for me that I was born with it. I don't know if because life came to me that way, where I had to learn to navigate through my obstacle and solve them. But also, I feel like discernment, you need to have the trust in you as well. Beside what Baba is telling you, have to trust your instinct and your gut feeling on how you're going to approach things. Let me
Yeah.
know if I'm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. But what you're trusting in yourself is what is good. You know
Okay.
what I mean? What will bring benefit on a long-term basis? The discernment that Baba is telling us about is not about instant gratification. It's not about I'm discerning something so that I could put a Band-Aid on it. But I'm discerning something that is changing it at the foundation, at the seed.
Hmm. I
That's
see.
what he's
Okay.
talking about it. So you're trusting yourself that whatever I'm doing and that's why he says, do it according to the time, because discernment is very connected to the time. And so when you do it instantly, it becomes more sustainable. It impacts the person, it impacts you and the person in a more long-lasting way.
Mm. Yeah, I'll have to listen to you again. I have to really listen to that topic again.
So it will
Because,
come to you.
yeah,
And this
yeah,
is what Baba, you see, the thing about Baba's language, it's very deep.
yeah.
And what we're accustomed doing is shallow. So one of the things I like about the swan-like intellect is you saw that swan putting its neck right down, right? It feeds itself by going into the deep under the water, right? As far as that neck could go. And then it takes something up and you see it eating. So this is what Baba is saying. A swan-like intellect doesn't feed itself from things that are on the surface or feed itself from things that are in the atmosphere. It goes deep. So it goes deep into what? It goes deep into what Baba is saying so that I could understand it. It took me a week to grasp this method that he is talking about. I read it, I reread it, I read it again, I read it again, and I'm making sense out of it. And then I said, wow, what he's really saying is that the method of success for discernment lies in cleaning up that attitude.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah.
Mm.
Good evening, Gayatri. Good evening, group. Thank you for your time and your knowledge, your deep knowledge, Gayatri.
It's not my knowledge, it's Baba's.
Baba's knowledge, I know, but
right?
you're giving us the butter. Well, I have two questions actually. Are our beliefs and preconceptions are in our attitude? The first question, and the other one is is our attitude in our smriti? Thank you.
Our attitude, what?
Is it in our smriti? Smriti?
Smirti. No, your smirti is your smirti. Your attitude is your attitude. They're all connected. Your vision is your vision. So they're all connected, right? So your the first question, ask me again the first question.
Are our beliefs and preconceptions are in our attitude?
Yes.
Could you apply the concept of attitude? Are they their feelings or the beliefs or preconceptions? Um,
all of that lives in your memory, right? Because the thing is that if you remember the spiritual trajectory that Baba talks about, he talks about awareness, then he talks about attitude, then he talks about vision, then he talks about action. So they're all connected. So the first thing that happens to us is that somebody says something to me, right? And I'm aware of what they said. Okay, that awareness is at two levels. I hear what the person say, and it's touching something inside of me. Okay, so the awareness is twofold: outer to inner, and inner to outer. That's how it works, right? So it's connecting to something that is inside of me that I'm saying, yeah, this makes sense. I can believe that. Okay, so now that's how belief systems start forming. It's deepening something that it's touching within me, and it's offering me something that I want to hold on to. Okay, now comes the attitude. The attitude is, that's what I want from it. So therefore, my attitude is going to support it. Okay, and my attitude is going to start closing in on it and saying, well, this is what it is all about, and nothing else is the truth but this. So my attitude is now hanging on to it as the truth, and anything that comes in the way of that, the attitude is forming as an attitude against people who see differently from what I began to believe in. And that's how I'm going to see the world. My attitude is going to determine how I see the world. I'm going to see the world as we and them, us, divided into religions because of the belief systems. And then that's how I'm going to take actions. I'm going to support my own clan, my own people, and I'm going to discriminate against others. So, of course, it lives in all, but the attitude holds on to it. The attitude is like the force within me that comes to the rescue of when people challenge my beliefs. When they challenge the belief, the attitude fights back, because the attitude stores all the reasons for why this belief is good. So of course, it's all the preconceptions, it's all the reasons for, it's all the different things. And so that's in my attitude. So it's a very strong part of the soul, but it's been very influenced by dichotomy, by divisiveness, by disunity, by conflict. All of that is living in the attitude. And the attitude also sometimes determine my identity. And so that is what it is. Now, attitude and smriti are connected, but smriti is, sometimes I'm aware of my prejudices. Okay, I'm aware that I have the prejudices that are coming from my attitude. You would behave in a certain way with a certain attitude, and then you suddenly, because you're a Brahmin, did I really do that? Did I just say those words? And so you become aware of it. But awareness on its own is not going to change the attitude. You know what Baba is saying, you have to use the power of Gyan and yoga to change it. And in the process to change that attitude, you have to discern, why did you say those words? Sometimes you have unconscious biases that are coming from the attitude. And those unconscious biases, you're not even aware you're behaving in that way. And someone would call you on it, but you would be in denial. This is what Baba is saying. It would deceive you, because it becomes, whatever is in your attitude becomes a block to your discernment. So you can't even discern what you just did. was inappropriate
Sister,
because it
the
blocked
is the
discernment and
body
it
language,
deceived you. And it deceived you. Right?
does the body language help also part of it?
Yeah, your attitude shows up in your body language.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very clear, Claire.
Rita, if you're asking a question, you have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is amazing. And it does require so much work, to get to that level. I mean, how do you discover that it is an unconscious block? That's what I'm thinking at the moment. So how do we come to know like what that block is? Are you saying by just working it step by step?
But I'm saying it's not about working step by, according to Baba, it's not about a strategic plan for this discernment.
Yeah.
But it's a recognition. The recognition that the way I understand knowledge is going to be the factor that would allow me to pay attention to these four things that are the pillars of discernment, which is incorporeal, egoless, viceless, and free from waste. Okay, so pay attention to the development of those four pillars on which you will sit. Everything he's asking you to inculcate from the Murlis must be set on these four pillars. So if he's asking me to inculcate brotherhood, is the brotherhood, and these are all connected to attitudes now, brotherhood, right, is an attitudinal thing. Is it that I'm incorporeal? Is it that I'm egoless? Is it that I'm viceless? And is it I'm free from the past of why brotherhood isn't possible in this world, of all the reasons people say it's not possible? And so that will then develop the strength in the seed of discernment. And so it becomes something natural. Discernment is a natural flow of the way the soul would begin to see things, understand things, and then discern things because of its seed, because of the foundation. And that is on a daily basis. So this is why the last session I want to do is chart writers, our chart, when we're writing the chart. So when he says to us at night, when you are writing your chart, tell Baba what you have done that you want him to be aware of. Now, usually it's some gross action I'm telling him. What he wants us to share is, Baba, I was unable to discern. At this particular time during the day, something happened. There was this person who came in front of me, and my discernment got clogged, or my discernment got stopped because the person became the obstacle to my discernment. He wants us to share at that level. And as I share it or I write it to him, then the next day's Murli, he's going to tell me what stopped me. So again, I start inculcating what he's saying, because discernment and dharana are very important. Discernment won't work without dharana, without the inculcation. But the inculcation is of the knowledge, is understanding what he is saying and practice it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Gayatri. I'm still thinking all the points I have today, and it feels like doable. Before it was like discernment is looked very, very difficult, and I thought that it's a very final stage that we have to reach, but now it is looking possible. So hope. So thank you so much for breaking it down in very small, small steps for us. And one thing that I really understood for myself is the time. Discernment and the decide it, the time is very, very important. So I have a question here. So when we decide, uh, does the decision needs extra courage or extra efforts? Or if I'm discerning it correct as per my dharana, then it becomes smooth. It just comes automatically.
Yeah, because it will be clean and clear.
Clean and clear.
My decisions will be clean and clear based on my discernment.
Okay. So if the decision, if the action decision is not clear, then it's a reflecting back that discernment
Yeah,
is
your
not
discernment
correct.
was clouded. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you. That was helpful. And also one point that you mentioned, it's so helpful that discernment comes with patience, practice, reflection, and experiences.
Right.
So go together, and then finally it can happen. So this was also a very good point.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll end with this, with a story, because sometimes I remember being called in to an intervention, and I knew nothing about the intervention. All I was asked to do is to come in and represent the double foreigners. So at that time, to discern whether I say yes or no, of course, I say, Baba, I'm being asked to do this. I don't have the facts and figures, and you know me, I like to find out, what is it I'm putting myself in? What is it all about? Why are you calling me into an intervention? Let me know that. So I would have discern all of this. But in this particular case, I just said yes. Okay, I just said yes. I went into the intervention, and all I found myself doing, because I didn't have the story and all of that, much of it, just very essential, was the person I found myself with an attitude that was very natural, actually, saying very beautiful things to him, saying, all these beautiful, lovely things. And then afterward, something nice didn't happen. It turned out to be, he did something to himself. So after I sat to discern, after the thing happened, I sat and I say to Baba, now where does discernment fit into this? That what am I discerning here? And usually the discernment would have been, if I had to do it all over again, would I do it any different? That's where discernment would have gone, right? To discern, if I had to do it again, would I do it any different? And I came up with the answer for myself after reflecting, patience, practice, experience, reflection, and all of that. I said, no, I won't do it again. But then that was a false discernment, because discernment has to go back to knowledge. And knowledge tells me I'll do it exactly the same again. Next time around, it will be repeated identically. I will do the same thing again. So then the discernment meant, at this point, let me just be soul conscious. Let me be egoless, because my ego was getting the way. I was blindsided. I was set up. So my ego was getting in the way. Viceless meant it is accurate. No one is to be blamed. No one. Don't go down that road. And finally, I had no past karmic accounts with anyone there. I was just an instrument in that moment and did the best I could in that moment. So then that discernment caused me to come to peace with what had happened. So that is another way of discerning. But you have to have a pillar, you have to have a seat on which to sit to discern. Otherwise, you won't be able to discern. It will become an obstacle. There would be no solution. There would be only regret. There would be repentance. There would be blame. There would be all of this in the name of discernment. And that is not discernment. Remember, discernment, the purpose behind discernment is to remove obstacles, and secondly, to find solutions. So I end with that story, and I want you all now, before we do our traffic control, to take this up and to experiment with it this week. Do you want us to do part 2 of discernment next week? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
please come with the
Yes,
homework
sister.
is Kiran will send what I've said to all of you. Listen to it again and practice discernment based on cleaning the attitude out and being clear, clean and clear intellect. And see how you relate to the discernment based on what Baba is telling us to do. Okay. All right, Kiran, over to you.
Thank you so much. It was beautiful, very, very deep. Yeah, go back to where you started, why Swan is selected. And you said that it's because of its skill to separate two things. And that's the basis. More we understand what Baba is telling us, more we understand the truth, we will be able to discern. And then, of course, there are many other things that you added, but I felt the base is understanding what the truth is. So thank you very much. And we will meet again for part 2 of discernment. And we will have one notch up Swan-Like intellect for sure. So looking forward to hearing all of your experiences and learn more. Thank you so much.